Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary Orchard and I, Mikah, Sargent, talk about some utility apps that you can use on your iOS devices. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is iOS Today with Rosemary Orchard and Mikah, Sargent, episode 686, recorded for Thursday, January 18th, 2024. Utility apps for iOS. This show is brought to you by members like you. Thanks. Hello and welcome to iOS Today in the club. Yes, welcome Club TWiT members, and thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us here. This, of course, is iOS Today, the show where we cover all things iOS, tvOS, watchOS, HomePod OS, and look, it's all the OSs that Apple has on offer. We love to talk about them here on the show and help you make the most of those, pretty pricey, but pretty great devices that you purchase from Apple, those iPads and iPhones and everything in between. So that is what we'll be talking about today. I am one of the hosts of the show, Mikah, Sargent.
And I am Rosemary Orchard, and as always, super excited to be here and talking about things. And Mikah, I'm going to just say, I had to restrain myself from putting shortcuts and a whole bunch of shortcuts apps into the content today, because there are so many good apps out there that I wanted to talk about. But no, I restrained myself. We're gonna be nerdy and talk about really cool stuff that's not shortcuts related to start with.
Yes, this is our episode on utility apps. These are the little kind of toolkit apps that you may want to download and use to help you with kind of solving small problems that you have, or perhaps big problems that have kind of little steps that you need to take, right? It's sort of calculating and just things that you have in your iOS toolbox. So speaking of solving things, I thought it'd be a good idea to kick things off talking about a great app for the iPad and the Mac. And rumor tells me that soon will be available for the iPhone. And that is an app called Soulver. That is spelled Soulver, currently in its third rendition. And Soulver is an app that is sort of like a calculator, but yet so much better than a calculator. It is an app that helps you to kind of it's the math. So when you're in school, right? You get up to a certain point and it's the math that you absolutely will be needing throughout life. But then after that, you start to get into things like calculus and geometry and some other stuff, some deeper, I should say, levels of geometry that you start to maybe question, am I going to be using this in my life outside of the job, outside of this class? This is the math that everybody ends up doing. This is the math that you want to take with you. And this app kind of helps you with that math. So let's take a look at Soulver. I've got it here on the iPad. Again, a little birdie tells me eventually it will be available on iPhone. But with Soulver, I want to show you the Getting Started guide, because the Getting Started guide kind of gives you an impression of what is possible with this. So you can do basic math like 1 + 1, 25 - 5. You can do multiplication, division. You can figure out 3 million plus 100,000, what that equals. But then you can do things like write out $50 plus 10% sales tax, or 120 minus 30% discount, or 20% of 300, or 15% off 1K. You can use you can also try to figure out like what percentage of what is what. So 50 is what percent of 200, 50 as a percent of 200, 50 divided by 200, which of course is how you do that percentage calculation. And then 90 is 20% of what, 150 is 15% of what. It's really clever how much you can do. 12 hours in minutes, 100 kilometers in miles. If you're converting between volume and mass for many things. And then it can even go into things like calendar calculations. This is, I think, one of the best parts of it, because goodness gracious, calendar math can get a little confusing at times, and especially if you're trying to kind of go between different time zones. And so you can do something like, here's the current date. What is the date if we add 32 years to it, or 3 years, 2 months, and 3 weeks? Time zone math, which is great. So I can say it is currently 9 9:14 in Pacific time. Pacific to London. And then I think I do. Oh, yeah, there we go. I didn't even have to do the question mark. So I did 9:14 Pacific to London. So I know that it is 9:14 a.m. here, which means that it's currently 5:14 p.m. where Rosemary is. And it does so much more than that. It's just a very powerful app that I go to all the time in order to do math. Like when there's some sort of multi-step problem and I kind of need to break it down and figure out what's going on. You can even do statistics, you can do proportions, you can do mean, median, it's kind of wild, everything that's possible with this. And yeah, I mean, Rosemary, you, of course, will probably have some different things that you've done with it as well. What are your thoughts on Soulver?
I love Soulver, and I have also, just like Mikah, heard that it should be coming to the iPhone again soon, which is very exciting because I love it for all sorts of things. I have used it to calculate scores in board games because you can just write, anything and then put it next to the number, and that serves as your memory for what that thing is. So kind of like a spreadsheet, and also just like a spreadsheet. I've used it for calculating like a split of who owes how much for what for travel, but because it can handle multiple currencies, I can say, dinner, 25 euros in pounds or in dollars or whatever it is. And that just makes it very, very easy to just type in, whatever it is in whatever currency and so on and so forth. And add things up as you go, or to calculate how long a journey is going to take, because I need to, say that there's like 4 hours for this plus 30 minutes for breaks and stuff like that. And it's just so handy for all sorts of things. It's kind of like being able to open up Numbers or any other spreadsheet application and use it for that sort of calculations, because it's got all of those possibilities in it, but it's much friendlier than that. And because it's not just a typical calculator, even though something like pCalc is a great calculator and it's got the history on it, you don't have the easy way to just sort of note down this thing and then go back and delete that bit there, because actually the 3 that you've calculated into that is actually included in something else somewhere else. So I love Soulver. It's a truly fabulous application.
Yes, I think it's great, and everybody should consider getting this on your iPad, your iPhone, and your Mac. Or your iPad and your Mac, soon to be your iPhone as well. Rosemary, what's first on your list of utilities?
Well, first on my list of utilities is something to help us clear up our photos gallery. So I know that iOS has built in a whole bunch of things for dealing with duplicates and similar images and so on, but Gemini Photos has a special place in my heart for cleaning up your gallery. But yeah, I just find this is very handy for, going through and saying, hey, there's a bunch of similar images here, or wow, there's a lot of screenshots. It'll group them together so that you can try and figure out things and deal with stuff very quickly. So I could just delete all of the screenshots if I wanted to. Some people use screenshots as a way to remember things. If that's you, then you may want to just pop in and delete all of your screenshots, or you could deselect everything and just select all the similar ones and delete those 40 in my case. That's a lot of screenshots. But I just find this to be incredibly handy because it's got things like blurred pictures, like this picture of a shark. It's actually just very low resolution. It's sort of, for folks who are listening, kind of like the IKEA cuddly toy sharks, but it's pink. I was hoping to find one in purple, but unfortunately I don't seem to make them. But this is, just very useful when it comes to just clearing up all of those photos. And I particularly like the fact that there's the ability to stitch screenshots together and so on now, and all sorts. And the folks behind Gemini are the makers of many great apps, including Setup, the subscription suite for macOS, but that does now have a lot of iOS apps as well. They're MacPaw. So yeah, I really like Gemini Photos because it's more than a duplicates finder. It's a gallery cleaner, and it makes my life much, much easier. And it's free to download and try out. And then there's an in-app subscription to use it for a month or a year, or there is a lifetime in-app purchase available as well for folks who prefer that.
All right. Up next for me is a little app called Textcraft. And Textcraft is an app that it's designed to let you kind of change text into different formats. So these are all types of transformations that you might do. Maybe you have text that you want to display in uppercase, lowercase, title case, alternating case if you want to be annoying. If you have text that it has spaces in it that you need to remove, or if it has kind of multiple spaces, so you just want to reduce those to single spaces. Maybe you are taking a series of text from a boomer where there are 2 spaces after the period and you want to remove those 2 spaces, then you would use that remove multiple spaces, add spaces, reverse. I mean, it does everything. Now, we've talked about this, I think, on this show, and if not on this show, you and I probably have talked about it independently elsewhere. But there are some options in here that I really, really recommend that you don't use. You may have seen sometimes people doing, for example, if we can show on screen, these strike through, slash through, upside down, bubble filled. They do these cutesy little text blocks in their Instagram posts or on Twitter or excuse me, X, formerly known as Twitter, or elsewhere. And while it looks fun and is kind of cool that you can, in theory, do what people would call a font difference on your tweet or your Instagram post, these are special characters that have names that are part of kind of the universal language, Unicode, that is displayed for us. And so because of that, these characters are very difficult for screen readers to be able to parse. So instead of reading out, when we'd say you do the filled bubble one that says type text to see 90 plus transformations, it's going to read those out by their Unicode character name, which I don't know the exact one, but it's probably, something like black circle with letter T in the middle, or black circle with Y, black circle with P. And it's going to read out every single one of those instead of reading what we can visually see. So for accessibility reasons, I highly recommend skipping these quote unquote fonts that are here. But when it comes to being able to take text and do things like remove punctuation or take a URL that's encoded and decode it, that is what this app is great for. It also has, on the other side, some symbols that are, once again, Unicode symbols. So if you ever want to do a fraction, a 2/3 fraction, instead of doing 2/3, you could come in here and grab that 2/3 fraction that's available here, as well as many others, and you just simply tap on it. There's the actual multiplication sign as opposed to putting an X, and the divide sign instead of doing a slash if you wanted to. And there are so many more. What's great about this is that you can get some text from anywhere and you can highlight it. And from the share sheet, you can open it up in Textcraft and have it be changed to whatever you want it to. So this is a great utility for modifying text very easily. So yes, well worth checking out. Textcraft is available for $2.99 in the App Store, and it's kind of a secret tool in my toolkit when it comes to doing text trends, or not text transcriptions, but text transformations on iOS and iPadOS. All right. Rosemary, what's next on your list?
Well, next on my list is the solution to a problem that I have semi-frequently. And this app is an app I mostly use on my Apple Watch, to be honest, rather than my iPhone. But this is just press record. So I don't know about you, Mikah. I found dictation on iOS has got a lot better over time, but it's still not perfect. And a lot of the time when it's not perfect, it's down to something like I'm using like a special word that we use at work for something or similar to that. And the problem with this is if it takes, I don't know, say Mikah as a name, and it mishears this as Mike. But there's also somebody called Mike who I might talk about occasionally. I wouldn't necessarily know later what that transcription was. So if I've gone, hey, Apple lady, remind me about blah, blah, blah. And then in my reminders, I see, talk to Mike about cats. well, Mike has a cat. He's considering getting another one. But actually, what I wanted to do was talk to Mikah about cats and maybe doing a pet episode of iOS Today or something like that. And therefore, this information is no longer as useful. Just press record helps me with this, because when I record, and for some reason it's not got access to my microphone right now, but when I record, it will record my audio. And then after my audio has been recorded, it will transcribe it. So I have the ability to go back and listen to the audio again, in case something went wrong somewhere, and also to see a transcription. But not only this, it's very useful if somebody sends you some audio. Like my mum managed to record an answer phone message that was left on her phone by somebody in French. And her French is okay, but my French is fluent, which definitely helps. And I was struggling a bit as well because he was, in a hurry and he was speaking very quickly. But I was able to import the audio into Just Press Record, tell it was French, and have it transcribe it for me, which was amazing and very, very useful. So now I've got it set up and I'm recording and I'm talking, and I can see that it's recording from my iPhone microphone. It's using an AAC format, which is going to give me a .m4a file, and it's recording at the best available size, which is 48 kilohertz. Now, if I wanted to, I could actually pause at some point of this recording. Maybe I'm in class. For example, if I were studying and taking a course and somebody walks into the room and asks the professor something, so I can pause and then I can resume and keep going. And so it stays as one audio block. And then when I'm done, I just hit stop. And now it's stopped and I can see it's here, and it's actually just transcribed it automatically for me. So I've just tapped on it. It's still processing the rest of the recording. And now I can see the whole thing. And the best part is as I go through this piece of audio that's been recorded, I can see the individual word highlighted in the transcription, which is just so insanely useful. If you're like, wait, this bit doesn't make any sense to me at all, I can tap on it and then I can listen to the recording at that point. And I just love this. It is such a useful tool. I use it on my Apple Watch all the time, actually. Pretty much every watch face I have has a complication for Just Press Record, which I really love. So this is one of my favorite apps, and I have to recommend it. Just Press Record is just $4.99 to download and use on all of your devices on all the platforms. And it's doing everything locally on device. It's not uploading this to the internet to, use in some massive AI machine that's then going to take your voice and turn it into something that can make calls to your grandmother on your behalf. It is just, it's working on your device locally, keeping your data nice and safe in iCloud. Oh yeah, and it syncs too. So if I record a bunch of these on my iPhone and then I go over to my iPad, I can listen there as well, which is one of the things that's really great, because I record on my watch, but I don't ever want to read this or listen back on my watch. I just want to get on with my life and have it on my iPhone later.
So the next one that I want to talk about, by the way, Just Press Record. I love it. I've got it on my watch, and yeah, I use it all the time. But the next one I want to talk about is called Picsew. You can get it for free. It's $1.99 to unlock everything. And Picsew is my choice for screenshot stitching. To be clear, there is an iPhone version, or rather, to be clear, there are many different stitching apps out there, including one we've talked about in the past called Tailor. Tailor's still great. Tailor does it automatically, which is quite nice. But what I like about Picsew is there's a little more that you can do with it. So I'm going to start with this browser, and I am on Apple's support page for the macOS user guide, and I'm going to take some screenshots. So I take a screenshot of some of the text on screen, I scroll down and take another screenshot, and then I scroll down and I take another screenshot, and then I scroll down some more and I take another screenshot, and we're going to scroll down one more time and just get the bottom of change screen sharing settings. Now, to be clear, I could have taken a screenshot of this page. I could have tapped on the screenshot. In fact, let me just show you. I can tap on the page, and then I can, up at the top, you'll see that there's a toggle in the middle, screen or full page. And if I choose full page, iOS built in has a way to capture the entire page as a screenshot. But there are sometimes adjustments and things that you might want to do. You may be taking screenshots in another app that doesn't support that functionality. And that is where Picsew comes into play. So if I choose Picsew, what I have here are a bunch of different tools that make this even better. So I will choose the first 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 different screenshots that I took, right? And I can make a scroll shot. I can do a vertical or I can do a horizontal. If I do horizontal, what it does is it puts those screenshots right next to each other. If I do vertical, then of course it puts them one after the other. And if I do scroll shot, then it goes ahead and kind of combines them without much more that you can do with them. Vertical gives you the ability to kind of make adjustments. So I could, for example, tap at the top and kind of crop it in to get rid of the top if I wanted to. I'll leave that alone. And then you'll notice that it doesn't automatically make adjustments to the text that's in between. So I need to go in and do that myself. So vertical is better if you're not doing something like text or a website. Since I am going to choose scroll shot, and I could still crop. So let's say I want to make some adjustments to what text is displaying on screen. I can tap those 3 dots and I can tap at the top, and then you scroll up to choose what you don't want there. You scroll down to bring back whatever you want there. And each of these individual yellow arrow sections are for you to move up or down to kind of add or subtract. That's where it has automatically detected that the text overlaps based on your crops. From here, you can crop the sides of the screen if you want to. You can make adjustments to every individual section. You can add to the scroll shot, and then we can go into tools. And there are so many different tools. First and foremost, I could go ahead and add, let me see, I'm trying to remember what this functionality is. I think this, this adds a little copyright at the bottom if you wanted to. Yeah, like a watermark, thank you. So I could hit edit and say Mikah Sargent, iOS today. And then we choose done, and then that could be at the bottom of the screen. Now I did it in white, so of course it's not showing up, but there we go. So then I could get rid of that watermark. We don't actually want that. What I love though is that, especially with an iPhone, I can add a device frame around the outside. So this of course does an iPad device frame, as if this was a big old iPad. Yeah, Apple's gonna make one of these, did you know? And you can choose the bezel that you want as an iPad Pro 12.9 inch. I'm kind of curious, what happens if I tap Apple Watch Series? Check that out. For folks who are listening and not watching, this really is one of those moments where you should go and check it out. I can change the watch band. I could make it the product red Apple Watch. But there are all sorts of bezels that are available here. And so I will go ahead and change that back to an iPad. And you can see kind of the section around it. But you don't need to have a bezel around the outside. You can just keep it as the text. But then you can do some things like cleaning the status bar, which I like to do. So up at the top, if you clean the status bar, it will set it to a specific time that's the same. Wednesday, September 12th, 9:41 a.m. And then on the other side, it brings, if you get those messages about, oh, why aren't you charging your battery? This will kind of reset those to standard. And then you can also, the scroll bar is currently showing up here. I can toggle that on to remove the scroll bar. So I'm not going to go into all of the details here, but I wanted to just show how powerful Picsew is. It is, I feel, one of the best scroll shot apps that exists because of that extra functionality. It goes past just automatically creating a scroll shot for you to actually adding that functionality. So that's Picsew. What's next on your list, Rosemary?
Well, next on my list is an app that I mentioned a few weeks ago. So I'm not going to spend too long on it, but if you ever need a list of times across time zones, Elsewhen is the app for you. So Elsewhen has 2 modes, the ability to copy just a list of time zones, or the ability to copy a specific time stamp and then paste it into Discord in a way that it will show up as the right time for everybody. So here I'm in the time list, which is, the list of times. And I can choose time zones. So I can go in and I can add more time zones here. So I could just scroll down and I could add, I've already got that one. There we go. I'm going to add Dawson, which is in Yukon time. Woo, exciting. And so now I can see in my time zone, in my time list, I currently have my time set to the 9th of January at 5:30 p.m. I've got Los Angeles, I've got New York, I've got Tokyo, I've got Melbourne, I've got Chicago, I have London, I have Adelaide, and I have Dawson. And those of you who are looking at this, or those of you who are listening and have a brain for time zones might be going, that sounds like it's in a weird order. You would be right. I'm going to use the sort by time feature to sort this automatically. So now it's got Los Angeles at the top at 9:30, and Melbourne at the bottom at 4:30 because it's a day ahead for them. And now I can tap on, for example, the share, and if I just open this in drafts, then it will populate a nice tweetable or postable list of time zones. So I've got flags representing the different countries next to different time zones, and then the actual time and the time zone as well, just to be clear. And so Tokyo is shown up as GMT +9 because I don't believe there is an abbreviation for the time zone used in Japan. And then I've got Melbourne and Adelaide down at the bottom using the Australian flag as well. And honestly, this is just very useful if you are talking to a bunch of people about a 9 a.m. meeting, but 9 a.m. for me is not 9 a.m. for Mikah. If I invite Mikah to a 9 a.m. meeting, he's probably going to have to stay up very late or get up insanely early because we're off by 8 hours. But if I can just paste this in, then he knows that when I say 9 a.m. meeting, I mean 9 a.m. for him, 5 p.m. for me, and that's much friendlier.
Elsewhen is an app that I use regularly, and for folks who use Discord, I know that it's very helpful in that regard as well, what with the special kind of time codes. But yeah, there's just something delightful about making sure that I've got all of that functionality set. All right, so for this next one, my final choice, this is an app called Annotable. It's Annotable. It's like annotation and able combined as a portmanteau. It's available for free with in-app purchases that will let you unlock each of the individual features, or you can pay $9.99 to unlock all of the features. And I am telling you, I ain't going nowhere. No, I'm telling you that it is absolutely worth the $9.99 to unlock all of the features. This is one of my longest owned and used apps that I have. Annotable is an app that is for making annotations to documents, to pages, to whatever you happen to have. So I have on my iPhone here a screenshot of the iOS Today page. And let's say I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that I wanted to do. So first and foremost, we've got our standard crop features. Duh. We can, crop the document however we need to. But we've got all sorts of annotation options. And let me actually... I did a boo-boo there. So the first thing that I want to do is show the ability to kind of darken the rest of the page except to bring attention to something specific. So I have 3 lines here. I've got a line that lets me draw to highlight something, an option that lets me circle to highlight something, or use a square to highlight something. And I'm going to choose the square. Now what I'll do is, let's say I wanted to call out our URL down here. I would tap on the page and I would move my finger to basically highlight that area. But what I love about Annotable is that it has these tiny, delightful details that really set it apart from the competition. So one of those things is, this is not a huge screen. Like, it's a huge screen in terms of where smartphones are today, but ultimately there's not a lot of movement that I have here. And so moving your finger around and trying to see what you're highlighting is a little difficult, right? If I tap and hold on any of these little adjustment circles, up will pop a little loop that lets me see precisely where I am moving my finger. So I am able to kind of make those adjustments exactly as I need to get the text exactly as I want it. I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I want to show some more features. There's also the ability to redact text, which you can do, again, by writing, or you can do by tapping and dragging. So let's say I wanted to hide the fact that we host the show so that you're surprised. I can tap and drag over that section. And let me just make some small adjustments here so that it's big enough. From here, I have some different options in the bottom left corner. I can choose what I have right now, which is blur, but I've also got different mosaics. There's a sort of random mosaic, hexagon mosaic, or the simple square mosaic. And you can choose how big those squares or the mosaic pieces are. So here you can see that text is not readable at all, probably not even with AI. But I'll go ahead and delete that redaction there, so that we can move on to the next section. Actually, we'll go kind of back up to the top, because basically as you tap on one, it brings it down to the bottom. The loop option. So with the loop option, you can zoom in on a part of the thing. So for this, I might want to call out this very delightful little toggle that they're using on the I in iOS. So normally what we would do is we'd put the loop, which is like a zoom in feature, over the top of the spot that we want to show. But what I love about this is that we can also do an arrow loop. I will tap on the adjustment circle in the middle of our loop, and then I will drag it over to that eye and have that pointed out. Now from here, I can actually tap on the arrow, or the circle is what it currently is. I can change it to an arrow. I can change it to a number. So if you have multiple steps, then you could set these as, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. And then over here, I've got adjustments to change the size or the amount of the magnification. Whoops, I need to select it. So we can zoom in more or less. We can change the size of the stroke around the outside, change the color of the stroke. And then let's move on. I'll delete that again, and I'll show you just a couple of other features. There's simple stuff like drawing on it, putting arrows on the page as you normally would, or putting shapes on the page. But I love the text features because you have multiple options: redact, highlighter, add text, and then a special kind of highlight. Redact, of course, will redact parts of text with an actual, black solid line. Highlighter will let you draw to highlight however you want to. The text will let you just add text however you want to. But my favorite is this special text highlighter, because this will actually use OCR, optical character recognition, to only highlight text. So if I tap on join and I start to drag across, you'll notice as I move down, it is only selecting the text. And so that will highlight the text itself. Now, I'm going to delete that. I'm going to show you how that's different from if I was to use the standard highlighter. Now I'll take my finger and I'll drag across the text, and you'll notice it's messy because it's however I move my finger. It's not OCRing to the text specifically, OCRing to highlight the text specifically. This is a very powerful, very cool app. You can use it from the share sheet. So you can basically bring something up in Annotable really quick and make an annotation and then move on. It's great. I recommend this for anybody who ever needs to make little notes on a document, make notes on a website, help their friends or family with how to do something in an app. So this is a great app for that, and that is Annotable. All right, folks, that brings us to the end of our conversation about utility apps for iOS. We would love to hear about your utility apps that you like to use. You can email us iostoday@twit.tv to tell us about the apps that you're using. But let's go ahead and move on to the news. So this show will publish on January 18th, and that means that we are still well within the bounds of Apple's recent announcement of when it plans to ship the Apple Vision Pro. Apple has announced that it will be opening up pre-orders for the Apple Vision Pro on Friday, January 19th. So if you are listening to this episode on Thursday, January 18th, you need to be ready to go at Friday, January 19th at 5 a.m. Pacific time if you're planning on pre-ordering the Vision Pro. It will be available in stores beginning Friday, February 2nd at all Apple Store locations in the U.S. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. How are you feeling, Rosemary?
I mean, they did announce this when they said at WWDC that there was a Vision Pro and it was coming out, that it was going to be available in early 2024 in the US. So I'm hoping that it will be coming out over here in the UK in the not too distant future. The fact that they haven't announced a date doesn't necessarily worry me, because I feel like they haven't announced a date because they don't yet know when they're going to launch it. And let's face it, this is Apple. They always do the under-promise, over-deliver thing, where if they can't tell you when you're going to get something, they're not going to make a promise and say, oh yeah, you can definitely get it like next month. Don't worry about it. And then next month comes and they don't want to have to go, oh, yeah, about that. Sorry, we're not going to be able to do that. So, they're probably being a bit more on the cautious side. And also, there's limited availability of these devices. This is not a new iPhone where they know that they are guaranteed loads of sales everywhere, and that, they can just afford to throw loads of money into it, because a Vision Pro is $3,500. That is a lot of money for something that people don't really know yet how it's going to fit into their lives. I want one. I have considered flying over to the US to come and grab one, but I feel like that's probably a little bit over the top at the moment. And so I'm going to wait and see how it goes and whether or not it seems like it's going to be over here in the UK sometime soon. I also want to try those magnetic lenses that you can pop inside to replace your glasses. And those have to be ordered online. That's not something that you can get in store. So I'm going to have to wait and see what happens there. I suspect part of the holdup is that they don't have partners for that everywhere in the world just yet. But it does look like it's coming in the US, and I think Canada as well. In just a couple of days as this episode releases.
Yes, I'm planning on signing up for a demo. There are opportunities for demos, so I'm gonna see what that's like to try to get a demo of the device. One other news story before we move into Shortcuts Corner and say goodbye. I wanted to mention that if you are a podcast listener who is using the Castro app on iOS, you may be aware that the app and everything else is not working as it once did. The app, Castro, was acquired by a company, and now it appears that the app has been shut down. The app certainly has been down since Friday. That would be Friday, January 5th. And the domain was not resolving either. There was some kind of back and forth where the team said, no, it's not shutting down. We're still keeping it going. And now users have been able to download the app and have been unable to, or not download the app, but download podcasts on the app, access Castro's website, and they have not, The Verge was one site that kind of reported on this, and they tried to reach out to folks at Castro. Their emails are returned undeliverable because the domain could not be found. So it seems like this is just kind of arguably a very poor way of handling things. That it was up and now it's down, and there was denial that it was going away, but it does seem to have gone away. Yikes. So if you are still trying to access Castro at this time and you're having trouble, now might be the time to move to another app, because it appears that it's not working anymore. So I would recommend Pocket Casts. I think it's a fantastic app. It's cross-platform. And of course, you can always use Apple's built-in Apple Podcasts app if you would like. So that is what you need to know about Castro. All right. I believe I can hear the music. It's time for Shortcuts Corner. Wow, my sweater really goes with the Shortcuts Corner graphic today. So Shortcuts Corner is the part of the show where you write in with your shortcuts requests, and Rosemary Orchard, our shortcuts expert, provides a response. Doug from New Zealand has written in and says, "Hi, Mikah and Rosemary. I am heading into my more senior years, so I've recently started tracking my blood pressure. I was starting to get a bit frustrated having to find the place in the health app where I enter my data, so it was perfect timing for me in episode 665 when Rosemary described how to create a shortcut for this. It is my first iOS shortcut and it works perfectly. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Smiling and blushing emoji. Rosemary also mentioned that an NFC tag could trigger the shortcut, so now I want to put an NFC tag on my blood pressure machine, but I don't know where to buy them or what sort I should buy. By the way, Doug, I've done this, quite literally this very thing. Put an NFC tag on mine, I tap it, and it brings up a shortcut that lets me log my blood pressure. I see you can buy blank NFC tags and program them on your iPhone. Is this the way to go? What should I put on them so they work for iPhone shortcuts? I'm a longtime TWiT podcast listener, but I only recently found iOS Today when I joined Club TWiT. Doug, thank you for joining Club TWiT. Thank you for listening to iOS Today. I love the show and have put it near the top of my listening list. Regards, Doug from New Zealand. Doug, you've made my week. And maybe you can make Doug's week by helping him out with the question he's asked.
Yeah, so there is one little thing that I want to know. And when Doug wrote in asking about RFC tags. Now, I'm pretty sure that Doug actually means NFC tags because radio field communications is a little weird. NFC stands for near field communications. And there's a couple of different kinds of tags that you can get. And I've just got some of them here. So I have here in my hand, I'm holding like a sticker sheet with some stickers on. And on the other side, if I flip it over, you can kind of just about see the coils in there that make these into NFC tags. Now, these are pretty good. And if you're putting them on something like a blood pressure monitor on the actual machine, don't stick it on the cuff or anything, it will probably work fine. However, the problem with stickers is over time, if they are on something like, for example, a vitamin or pill container, I know some folks stick them on there, then where you pick them up and touch them, they can sort of start to, get a bit gunky and so on around the edges, which is never a nice look. But on top of that, sometimes they might stop working, which is not good. Also, just FYI, your blood pressure monitor shouldn't be made out of metal. It seems unlikely. But if you are going to stick an NFC sticker onto something metal, you will need something that can work with metal. There are NFC stickers that you can buy that work on metal. So this is one kind of thing that you could get. Or something else I like to buy are these. Now, this just looks like a plastic coin, but it's got an NFC tag built into it. So you can buy these, and I prefer these because you can just get like those little sticky pads and stick them onto something. But because they're made of plastic, you can just tell that they're going to be a bit more durable and a bit sturdier than just an NFC sticker. Where if the coil inside of it gets broken or bent too much, that's when things will go wrong. And my favorite part of this is, how do you program this? What do you put on it to make it work with shortcuts? Well, I got great news for you. You don't need to do anything. Really. So you grab your NFC sticker or your NFC tag. So I've got one of my plastic chips here. And you open up shortcuts. You go to the automation tab. You tap on the plus to create a new personal automation. And then you tap on NFC. Okay. And then you can just change it to run immediately. And then there's an area where it says when NFC tag. And then you tap scan. Okay. And this is the point where you pick up your iPhone, okay, and you grab your NFC tag and you sort of go, it's kind of next to the camera bump. You don't need to tap it. It's just scanning it. And then you give your tag a name. So you could call it blood pressure monitor, for example. And if I could type, then I would be much better at this. There we go. Blood pressure monitor. Okay. Next, and then you select your shortcut that you created. You've already done all the work there. So you don't actually need to program this with anything. It just works. And that is the beauty of it. Now, I should say, this will just work for you on your iPhone. If you have a partner or family members who would also like to use the same tag, they will also need to set up a Shortcuts personal automation to do the same thing. But that is it. And honestly, it works insanely well, and I highly recommend it. So hopefully this information will be very useful to you, Doug, and you can actually take advantage of those NFC tags and stick them on all of your things. I really love it for health devices in particular that aren't, they're not the smart ones. You know, you didn't spend the extra to get the health kit compatible scales. You've just got scales. Well, you can stick an NFC tag to the wall in your bathroom next to your scales and go ahead and just scan that, you know, wave your phone over it, and it will ask you what you weigh, and you pop it in and you've logged your weight. You can stick it on a vitamin container and have it open. Unfortunately, logging medications using the Shortcuts app is not possible, but you could have it open the health app to the medication section perhaps, or just open the health app and hope that you remember what it's for. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do using NFC tags and health kit in particular.
All right. And then speaking of NFC, we got another question from Keith, who writes, "Hi, I enjoyed the episode today, but was wondering what tools you use for working with NFC tags. Do you just rely on shortcuts, or are you using a tag writing app? Thanks, Keith."
Well, so mostly as per the Marisol to Doug, I just use shortcuts. I use shortcuts for pretty much everything. And the reason why is I also like to use things like my credit card for this. Now, shortcuts, when it reads an NFC tag, is literally just going in and it reads the ID of the tag. It's not reading any data written onto it. It's just reading the ID. And so it'll read that and it'll use that. And so, for example, for logging expenses, I've got some cards that I use the physical cards for rather than Apple Pay. And then when I've used it, I just tap it to the top of my phone and bam, it runs my shortcut. But there are some things where it's interesting to read the actual NFC tag and read the data on it, or write some data. And for that, I use an app which is creatively called NFC Tools.
Same.
And so this app is very simple. It's on my iPhone screen right now. So it says, "Welcome to NFC Tools." And I'm just going to grab a different NFC chip here so that I'm using a different one to the one I just used. So I can read. And so I can approach an NFC tag and I can read it. And, well, there's not a lot on here. I can see that it's not protected by a password. It's got a bit of space for some data. It is writable. And it's got serial number and so on, but there's no information on there. But when it comes to writing, I could add a record, and then this is where it gets really nice because I can do things like add contact information to here. I could add calling somebody via FaceTime audio. I could configure a Wi-Fi network, so I could configure this so that when people scan it, then they will automatically connect to my Wi-Fi network. And I can add Bluetooth connections. I can do custom things. And of course, there's also running a shortcut. Now, the reason why I wouldn't actually use NFC Tools to write this to run a shortcut is because the shortcuts that I have on my phone are not the same as the shortcuts that you have on your phone. And so I would much prefer to configure it on each of the devices that I'm expecting to scan it. And the other thing is if you do want to use shortcuts to run something, but you've also configured your NFC tag to, I don't know, send a text message, then every time you scan that NFC tag, it's going to just do whatever's built into the NFC tag as well as running the shortcut, which means you've got two different things going on at the same time and it gets very confusing. But for things like configuring it to make a FaceTime call or a FaceTime audio call or something, then I absolutely could use NFC Tools. And I honestly pretty much exclusively use this for the Wi-Fi network option. And then I stick it in a little picture frame with a QR code to connect to my Wi-Fi and the actual details of the Wi-Fi network. And I've done this for all of my family members as well. So now if my grandmother resets her network settings for the 18th time, she knows that she just has to touch her phone to this little photo frame that she's got, and then the Wi-Fi stuff magically works again. So yeah, I have successfully trained her with that. But there's a whole bunch of things that you can do with this. You can import things from QR codes or NFC tags. You can save it, you can load stuff, once you've got it all set up, then you can go ahead and write, and that's it. There's also erasing tags and things like that as well, which you can do with this, but most of the time, honestly, I just use shortcuts.
Beautiful. All righty. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of this episode of iOS Today. As I always mention, you can get in touch with us by emailing us, iostoday@twit.tv. If you'd like to keep up with us, Rosemary, where should folks go to do that?
Well, the best place to go is rosemaryorchard.com, which has got links to all of my social media where you can find me. And occasionally has some new stuff shared there as well. It's also got links to other things that I do on the internet, other podcasts, apps, and so on. What about you, Mikah?
I can be found at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of iOS Today. Thanks so much for being a member of Club TWiT. We will see you again next week. But for now, we will say goodbye.